Rising, where we focus on becoming whole through the mind, body, and spirit together. My name is Lamisa, and this is part two. And I have Cheryl Marie Bartley and Tabitha Williams. Welcome, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank
Welcome.
you. Thank you for
Welcome. It's
having
good.
us.
Thank you for
Yes.
having us.
Yes. Yes. Thank you.
How did your identity shift when you transitioned from military service to retirement? Tabitha.
My identity, I want to say my identity changed. I mean, as far as if you want to talk about the mentality, as far as being the soldiering mentality, it changed in the sense that I'm not dealing with adults. I guess a transition, maybe from a soldier mentality to now, I guess, a teacher or instructor mentality.
Cheryl.
Well, I would say this your identity does change, especially as a female soldier. It's almost like I'm going to call it a reverse culture shock. And I'm going to say that because in the military, as a female, you got to combine that together female and soldier. And so you're actually kind of unique, especially as a senior, as you both know, as senior females in the Army, whether you're black or white, as a senior leader in the Army as a female, it's not that many of you. About 2%, 2 to 3% of people in the military actually retire. So I will tell you that it's like a reverse culture shock where in the Army, you were more seen because, like you, Sergeant Major, is like, she is Sergeant Major in the Army. Is she a female? And then I'm going to add, and she's an African American because you got that rank on your chest and they look at you. They most respect you and they are like, they take their head off to you for making it that far and making it an environment. Whereas when you get out, it's like reverse culture shock. You walk into a room, nobody knows you, nobody sees you. Not on top of that, you're not a male, you're a female. So it's like you kind of blend back in. You actually become the camouflage that you took off. You become that invisible person because of that sometimes.
How did your sense of purpose evolve out the retirement? Cheryl.
Say my purpose did not change. I still believe that if you've heard this quote before, that the true purpose of leadership is to produce more leaders, not followers. I still keep that mindset for myself and those around me. But my goal of what I wanted to do is what changed, but my purpose of how and what did I wanted to do didn't change, meaning that I said when I get out, I want to start my own business. I want to help people. I want to help young females, whether they want to do a civilian job or whether they want to join the military. My purpose is I am going to make sure that I get them to see that you can do this too. Because I will say what the military taught me is you can do it. What anybody else can do.
Well, like Cheryl said, is the part that I like was getting out and creating leaders, and so definitely with the job that I took on as far as being an ROTC instructor, again my goal was to mold young minds and to making them great leaders. And so with the job that I have as far as being an instructor, to be able, especially at the high school level, to be able to talk with them, put them in the right direction, and as far as letting them know, as far as being like that cheerleader, motivating them, telling them they can definitely do that, and definitely to go in and see them to leave, graduate, to go in and to get set positions, and then to come back and they explain it to the kids about, hey, look, because of ROTC and all the stuff that you guys taught us, I went in, I was able to do this, I'm very successful there. So definitely for me, molding those young minds to become those great leaders, definitely.
When did you start planning for retirement and what would you do differently? Tabitha.
I started, well, I'm gonna tell you, mine started a bunch of times, so I ain't gonna lie to you. So my first time was I was gonna do the 20 and get out. I was set. I had went to Kuwait, been on R&R, went to go visit my son. I had lost my father. And my son, of course, for those that don't know, is mild autistic. So because of the autism, he has that schedule in his head, and he knows I go to come, and that next time she coming back, she's to stay. When that didn't happen, broke down, it just hurt my heart, and I was like, okay, I'm done. I'm told my sister I'm ready. So I called. I said, hey, look, I'm at 19 and 6. Give me a duty station back at Texas. I'm out. Well, of course, that didn't happen. Ended up going to Hawaii. And then I was like, okay, I met a girlfriend of mine over there, and she was like, well, hey, let's retire together. I said, okay, say no more. We're in Hawaii. We can, best place, enjoy ourselves, do our thing, and we retire. Well, of course, me personally, I ended up deploying, did not do anything for CW4. I'm going to be honest, Cheryl, you ain't going to believe this. I didn't get a photo. I didn't do anything. They did an evaluation. The Colonel, Fulberg Colonel couldn't even write. Somebody had to write the evaluation for him. So again, I was just like, I'm signing everything because I was pretty much had that mentality, like I'm done. And of course, God has other plans. So got picked up and ended up here at Fort Sam, San Antonio, Texas. And then after that, my son was like, look here, I'm about to be in high school. You got to retire. You got to figure it out. So that's how the retirement piece went for me. Um, would I change anything? Nah, because I had the best help person ever. Because I could tell you, had it changed, I probably wouldn't be retired. But because of the person that I had that stayed on my butt the entire time to ensure that I retired, no, I wouldn't change none of that. None. No, ma'am. Good question.
Cheryl.
Yes. So retirement planning, I would say that it was a multi-year process for me. I will tell you that my family thought that I would never retire. And I have to tell you guys that as a person in the military that's transitioning and one who came from a family that did not have a lot, you're always in that mindset of, I got to work. I got to be doing something because nobody's going to do it for me. And if I don't do it, who's going to do it? Even though I think it's a type of post-traumatic stress that we have from childhood when you've always been that person that had to scrape and that had to lead. So I would say that I started planning like 3 years before I got out, ideally actively planning on should I do this? Should I anticipate it? But I'm gonna tell you something before I go on that I didn't do right, which was I worked up until I think my last day before terminal leave because nobody else was doing it. And I had to learn that just like the Army song says, the Army goes rolling along, it keeps rolling along. I already, had financial peace, but I still started planning because I knew I wanted to start my own business. Me and my girlfriends started working on our own business called Better Together Wealth Management Group. So wait a minute, two of them are on this phone. We started working on our own business during my transition, which actually helped me with my transition. So some of the things I prepared for was that. I also prepared for what if I don't want to work anymore? Do I have enough money saved to do that? Do I have enough money? I would say my pension, which AKA my retirement, where if I don't want to work, do I have that amount of money saved? I have a husband. I could have said, well, he's working, retired military, I'm good. But my mindset, and I do think this is Women's History Month, I do think as a woman that we are always in that mindset of, I need to make sure that I'm covered. I need to make sure that I'm protected. So I also looked at those things. So that was when I started about 3 years out doing little things. And as time progressed, I did a little more.
What's the biggest skill you carried over from your military training to your civilian job?
See, I knew you would throw a question at me, and I'm gonna have to sit up here and think about. My goodness. Well, I would tell you as far as my organization and staying organized, because it definitely have to be organized as far as when it comes to ROTC, the planning portion. So I guess some of my HR abilities were put to the test, especially as far as with ROTC, because every 3 years they have what's called a JP, a Gerald TC program accreditation, where they come in and Big Army comes down and do an inspection. So a lot of work goes into that. So again, a lot of organizing, making sure things are properly in place, planned correctly and whatnot. So in order to make sure that the program is a success and is able to continue within that particular school, and I've done that a couple of times. So I would say that would probably be one of the things that I carried over into my present job now.
So the JPA, you talked about the Joint Program Accreditation. Tell us a couple of things that happens there that also happens during in the military when you were in the military.
Okay, so one of the big things is called the inspection. And that is where the cadets are actually in the Army. We do the same thing. We have this big, massive inspection. Everybody be in uniform. It's an overall looking as far as they walk by, checking as far as the soldiers in the formation. I would also say that we brief. And so the cadets, because of course individuals in the military do briefings. They brief, colonels to generals. So the cadets
Good.
themselves actually have to do a briefing to the senior personnel that come down before that actual inspection. So those are just a couple of things as far as with the JPA.
Cheryl.
Well, I would say that some of my top transferable skills would probably be considered soft skills. Leadership, team, and management is one of the things that was things that transferred well for me. Project management, which I know you understand, Sergeant Major. That decision making under pressure. A lot of times when I see people under pressure as a civilian, because we lived in that type of pressure as military, I saw that as a skill that I was able to rapidly analyze things. And that transfers very well. Adaptability, because one of the things we learn in the military is adaptability. So I think that transferred really well for me. If you put together a plan, all of us know it's the first thing to fall through in the military. Teamwork, I would say, just dealing with a group of people or cross-functional or different cultural people, where a lot of people would look at me and be like, "You're so nice, or you're so kind, or you speak so well." That can mean a lot of things if y'all understand what I'm saying. But and that cross-functional teamwork to be able to bring those people together. And I will tell you what my plumber told me. And by the way, everybody, I flip houses and I got my own party business, which we'll probably talk about later. But the plumber came at the beginning of the project. The project was horrible. It was going horribly well. I mean, horribly wrong in his eyes. And he just thought that I was not going to be able to accomplish it. So I had to call him back. I was almost done. One of the drywallers, hit one of the plumbing lines. It actually was the stack that carries the methane gas and all the stinky stuff out the house. So I wanted to make sure a plumber came and did it. And he came back and he said, I thought you were going to fail at this, but this looks really good. So I think he was paying me a compliment. He was like, when I first came, I knew you wasn't going to make it. I just knew you wasn't going to get this house done. But boy, am I surprised. The ability to do that cross-functional teamwork is very essential. So those are the skills that I think transferred very well for me from from military to civilian life.
Right. How have you rebuilt or maintained friendships outside the military community? Cheryl.
Back in the day before I got in the Army, we used to sing this song when I was like in a 4-H club. And it said, make new friends, but keep the old. One is silver and the other one is gold. I will tell you, my friends in the military are my battle buddies. 2 of them on the phone right now. And I think as this one guy, he's online and he talks about in the military, we were bound together by trauma. And he says there's no way, in the military, one thing you like about it is you're going to miss your friends. The other thing about it is those other people that you're not going to miss. But those brothers and sisters that aren't, as Tabitha Sergeant Carradine are both my battle buddies. We went through a lot together. So keeping those friendships, it can be hard because as we know in the military, we stay at one place maybe for a year, maybe 2, and the most 3, and then we move. But those hardened friendships that you make, some of them during trauma. As Tab, the first time I met Tab was probably her trauma, not my trauma. As TAC officers, you never forget them. And some of those friends become your gold friends. So it's up to us to make up our mind whether we're going to continue that. And that's what I did. That's what, as you guys can see today, Chief Williams has been out now for how long, Tad? How long you been out, Tad?
She been out 6 years.
And how long you been outside, Megan?
6 years.
And I've been out 3. And we are still hanging tough. So you have to stay in contact, communicate, no matter what the platform is, communicate in some type of way to make sure your battle buddies are okay, because you can get some depression after leaving the military because you're used to that set up regiment structure. So I have to keep the old friends and the new ones. I make new ones, but my golden ones I continue to have for life. So that's how I try to keep that communication going, or maybe even starting a business together, maybe continuing through different avenues to make sure that we stay together. But I can tell you that bonded trauma from war, battle, deployment, even in toxic work environments or having certain leadership that might not be, it causes you to lean on each other to ensure that your nucleus can move forward.
Cheryl, what wellness habits have you kept after the military to stay mentally focused?
Well, I do want to start off by saying something about all military personnel in terms of mental wellness. I think it's 22 soldiers commit suicide a day. Is it a day? I have to look up that quote. A mental health is such a big thing for us as military because of a lot of the things that we went through in the military. Those things do not, because you shut that door, it does not close your mind. It does not close your mental mentality on what you saw, what you went through. For me, not only is there post-traumatic stress from war and some of the things, I also have sexual harassment trauma. Some of the things that happened to me in the military. To this day, I don't like people to walk up behind me. So I kind of build barriers, even in my office when I worked in the military, I built those. So mental health is such a big thing that you need to continue as veteran altogether. Things like, believe it or not, Tab talked about exercise, walking, yoga. Some of those things help relieve some of that built up health challenges that you might be having. Seeing a counselor to help you through some of those things, because you don't want that to decline. That's what causes a lot of suicides for our military people, because they get out, they do not have that help. They do not have that person that has that light trauma. Believe it or not, when you were in the military and you were talking to that friend right next to you that had that same trauma, they were actually providing you a type of mental health and helping you because you were not alone in that. So that struggle or that lack of routine that leaves, you have to continue that, because that social and biological, it shifts when you get out the Army. So it's very important that you ensure that you have some type of mental support in those areas. So I will tell you myself, I have my own counselor for those things. And then I have my friends that either I call or they call and check on me to find out how I'm doing with my transition and those preventative things, that can help me enhance myself, my self-expression, my self-empowerment, I would say, to make sure that I continue to renew in that area. So those are some of the things that I have to do to make sure that my military trauma, in terms of being in the military altogether, being at war, and even that sexual harassment or assault trauma, that we have to make sure that we as women veterans, because this is Women's History Month, learn and continue to not isolate ourselves. Because we saw things institutional, I would say institutional prejudice that we see in the military.
If you could design the perfect retirement transition program for military women, what would it include?
I would say being proactive with that plan is very important. Now, as we were saying about how far out, you should do things. But I would say having a buffer plan, whether it be a buffer with cash, building up your network of people that you getting your civilian resume, which is standard for a lot, whether you're male or female, and then your self-care, which I love what Tab talked about when it comes to your health itself, budgeting your money, as we all know about retirement. I think that should be part of the plan. The medical one, believe it or not, I know people might think this, but I think it's a big one for women because most of us, if we're retiring as women, we're reaching perimenopausal, premenopausal, or menopausal. And let me tell you, the mental change that comes along with that, including the physical change, is so very important. And I don't think a lot of attention is paid to that. Yeah, a lot of people talk about what percentage you're going to get, how much money you're going to get, but you're entering a part of your mental and medical that you might take it as because you're getting out the army, but that's something that I think should be planned. And then the last thing, and I think that I talked to you guys about, is I think it should be a class for women on what I call the reverse culture shock, and that these same women that were looked at in a certain light, then now they're almost invisible. Not that they're truly invisible, but I think that's a class that should be added for women. And then last, that class should also include a women's veterans group. You know, you've got a lot of different women's veterans group, and I think that should be brought in, and maybe several speakers brought in to, hey, join this, as I think I said during our last meeting, you got to find your tribe. So I think some women's veterans group, that should be something that's added, and you don't see that. You see, oh, join the VFW, join this, but we have our own unique tribe that reverse culture shock, not that only that we're getting out the army, we're getting out the army as females. And in the army, we were senior leaders that, and now it's like, who is that? That's just another woman walking down the street. But something along women's health, women's tribe networks. Over.
Well, ladies, I want to thank you for coming on Rooted and Rising, and we will see you next time.
Thank you.